Welcome to Rendering Insights. In this video, we're going to be drawing a cartoon of a little surf wagon. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe down below. All right, this is the drawing we're going to be doing. We'll do our line work in Illustrator, and then we'll build our rendering, our little cartoon here in layers in Photoshop. Okay, let's go. Okay, we are in Adobe Illustrator. A little while back, I had drawn out this little cartoon just by hand. Grabbed some pencils and just sketched out this thing and just had some fun with it. I said, you know, it's time to do a digital version of that. So that's what we're going to do today. All right, well, the first thing we need to do in order to trace this off where we can see it is put a little mask over this. So on the left, we're going to grab that box tool with white, put a box over the top of this, but back the opacity off to about 40% or so it creates a little bit of a tissue layer. Okay, see what that does? Because otherwise you just can't see through it well enough. I mean, you can see it, but it's just too muddy. So we put that on there. Then we open up a layer and grab our pen tool and just trace off all of our lines. Okay, just copying this thing pretty much exactly. Let me show you what I did. The only thing I changed the shape of the front wheel a little bit and the fit on the board. That was about it. My little surf dude up here, I left exactly the same, all right? Without that tissue layer, look how hard it would be to see that. I mean, you can see the lines, but you can't tell where your new lines are. It's just kind of crazy. So that helps a lot. So for now, since we have these on here, let's get rid of that original sketch. We can just see what we've just created with our pen tool. Now on another layer, I went ahead and dropped in kind of some little horizon lines on our hubcaps and a couple details up on the motor. Okay, see what I did? Not much. These are pretty rough. I just kind of scratched these in with the pencil tool. Put some plug wires in out of our distributor and dropped them in here and a little bit of linkage there, and I think a steering column. The reason I put that on a separate layer is because once we get in Photoshop and we put color on here, we'll have color through here. And then we can drop in these details on top of it, and it just makes it a lot easier than trying to work in between all of these lines. Okay. The only other thing we put together here in Illustrator is a background. I wanted that kind of sunset beach background, so these are the lines that I put in. With the pencil tool, just kind of drew this ground, water, whatever this is, the hills over here, and drew out a palm tree and then just made a couple versions of it. Same thing with the pencil tool, just created this cloud, did a version of it over here, and put a big old sun on there. Actually, that belongs behind that. All right. Well, there you go. There's all of our lines. We'll bring that into Photoshop and we'll build our little rendering in layers. All right, we have our line work here in Photoshop. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and make 3 copies of this layer. So over on the right, go ahead and drag that layer down to that little plus sign and make 3 duplicate layers. All right, on the very bottom one, we're going to use it to do all of our base colors. So we're going to drop those in here. So with your paint bucket tool, you're going to grab and decide we're going to paint this car kind of a purpley color. So little by little, we'll drop in all of our base colors here. All right. Even on these reflections on these hubcaps, we just dropped in a light blue there, a little tan on the bottom, maybe some ground reflections. Very simple, basic motor base colors in here. Okay. And since we are going to use white on some of these bases and we have a white background, it's a little tricky to see everything. So what I like to do is put in a temporary colored background behind this, below that layer, just so I can see to make sure that when I put white in here on these panels that it really is going to show through, because otherwise if we miss that and don't realize it till later, we go to all the trouble of doing our shading and everything, and we build a background behind it and it shows through and it looks terrible. All right, so there's a little colored temporary background, so just to make sure that we have our base colors filled. All right. On our next line layer, we're going to open it up and start doing some shading. So since we have a purple paint job on this car, let's go ahead and use a darker purple, a dark plum color to do some of our shading instead of black. So we're going to grab your magic wand tool and select these panels, sometimes one by one and sometimes in a group. Like down on this side, we're going to grab this one, which will light up all the way back here. In this lower door panel, we'll start brushing in that purple. This is what I did for some shadows and highlights. See, little by little, since we light this up in here, it's going to carry all the way over here. We can brush underneath here some shadows. We can put some shadows below and just start playing. Come back in here with some white and just little by little treat this thing so it creates some shape so we can tell it's round up here and has some highlights. Just have some fun with it. Okay, like on these wheels and tires. Obviously, it's not very realistic, but we had these base colors in here in the previous layer, right? So we just select these one by one, and I grabbed some dark blue, brushed on top, put a little white on top of that fake mountain. We already had our tan, put some rust color in here, a little bit of black, done. Our white wall is going to have some shape, so let's put a little shadow in there. So grab this kind of light warm gray, put a shadow under. Each of these panels, we'll just grab and do that. Select this again with that magic wand, grab your black and just start brushing in some black till you get what you want. Same on this outside shape. Each ring on this wheel independently, select here, put shadow on this side, a little bit of highlight on that side. It's certainly nothing fancy, but just enough to have some busyness and look fun, okay? And on our little surf dude here, remember this hat, we had a white fill in there to start with. So I kind of grabbed this tan gold color and just start brushing in over here, this kind of medium tone right here. Brushed in down below. I mean, it's pretty rough. And then darkened it up and played with over here, just trying to illustrate maybe some shape that his head's tucked in there. Put some shadow over here. Same with his face. Select this section and did a little darker version of this flesh tone. Brush down here, select this section, just shadow it up. Just have some fun with it. All right. Let's get rid of that green for now. We don't need it anymore. Same thing on this tail light. It's kind of a cartoon version of a Pontiac tail light. Just kind of rendered that out a little bit just so it has something to pop. Okay, on our next line layer, we're going to open it up, and with what's left, we're going to do a little shading on the motor and on the board itself. So this is what I did with that. See, there's not much, but you know, selecting this header and just putting some shadow and a little bit of sky reflection, even though it's not chrome, and just put some color in here. And you remember on this velocity stack on this motor, we had a white fill to start with. And I could have put it in with that kind of gold brassy color that this stack is going to be, at least in my mind. But instead I decided to do white. Figured it'd be easier to put that gold color in here, brush that in here, leaving this panel open. And then use a little darker color here, a little shadow, and a real light highlight on top. All right. And very basic shading down here on the motor. Again, this is the difference from our cartoon fills to a little bit of shading. And similar on this board, we just wanted to simulate some color and some shadows. The only other fun thing I did was on the fin on here. Remember, this is our base color we had. You know, I don't know if this is wood or what it is, but let's have some fun with it. So with the magic wand tool, selected this area. This thing lights up in here. And then grabbed some lighter versions of this color and just start playing, literally scribbling in here, just creating something that kind of looks like wood grain. And then brush in real light, some highlights on top and a little shadow below. And then just some shadows on these mounts for this holder. Okay, there's our basic car. A couple things missing still. I decided to do some little top highlights, some little hot spots, just to help make it sparkle a little bit. So looking at your wheel and caps and a couple body panels, I made these little highlight top spots. See those? Just something to make the car come alive, just on places where the sun might pick up a little bit of reflection. And again, remember that separate layer we had for these plug wires and this linkage in here? We dropped that in on top of our color. Just makes it easier, even that steering column. Instead of having to deal with this panel and this panel and this one separately, we do them ahead of time and then drop this in on top, and it just makes it a lot easier. All right. The only other thing on our car itself is a sign for the side. So I created a little surf shop sign. All right, just for fun. Now there's our car rendering, our little cartoon. The only thing left is our background. And I'm doing this in 3 layers just so you can see what we're doing here step by step. Now that background layer that we had drawn out in Illustrator, I brought that in. And the only thing I added in this layer was these fills. Remember, it had a little bit of an orange outline here, so I used that same color, filled it. And the palm trees were already black and it had an outline here, and I went ahead and filled these areas with black too, but that's it. So now on our second layer, I've just done a little bit of shading on the clouds and on the sun. This is what that looks like. See, very simple. Whether that's a reflection of the sunset, I don't know. It's a cartoon, right? Okay, and on the last layer on this background, I'm going to do a gradation from an orange to a yellow, just to make this look bright and crazy sunset, paradise, surfland, right? So here's that. All right. Well, there is our little cartoon of a surf wagon, just for fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, please check out our other videos available on Rendering Insights.